And so I realized that, the 4 paces before I hit the podium, my mind is like, banging all over. And I realized all I've got is this speech. So either I have confidence in my words or I'm screwed. So I choose to have confidence in my words. And so I spread the speech out. It's like this wave of paper in the shape of my hand. It looks stupid. So I put down this damaged few sheets of paper, and I lay my speech on them. And I said, I'd like to thank all of you young people for going to college, which sounds like kind of a cheesy thought, so let me flesh that out just a little bit. I'd like to thank all of you for taking years of your life and devoting it to the pursuit of higher knowledge. And certainly, not every single day of the last few years was devoted to uploading vast amounts of information so you could further evolve your aptitude and intellect. And that's why you were given hundreds of billions of brain cells so you could afford to maim, slaughter, suffocate, and otherwise kill hundreds of millions of them as you run riotously up and down the hallways of academia as a young student is wont to do. And the students understand, like, and the parents are like, harumph, harumph. Does that mean they're smoking the pot? What the hell is going on in this place? It's a damned outrage. I said, but by and large, in order for you to be sitting here now, you had to apply yourself. And for that, I thank you. And now, several minutes from now, you're going to be receiving a diploma. And please do not let that diploma merely be the means to some economic end that affords you some suburban box that you can afford to fill full of things and then breed in that box and go gently into that good night. You cannot disappear into the American consumer's cloth that easily or that hassle-free. More is needed from you in these very interesting times. By and large, your job has been for the last several years to be a curious person, to wake up every single day burning hot for information, only satiated at day's end when you know more than when you woke up. And just because you leave here today does not mean that you get a moment's respite from your rabid curiosity. In fact, it's a thing that you're going to enhance as you grow older. It's like a flame that you're going to keep lit. It's like a genetic trait that you're going to pass down to your kids. It's like a virus with which you'll infect everyone you come into contact with. Why is the most powerful word in your vocabulary. You must keep asking questions. You ask a question, you arrive at the answer, you ask another question, and off you go, relentlessly, until you die. That's the only way it can be, because the world has problems. The world needs solutions. Immediately, we need bluer skies. We need clearer water. We need renewable energy. We need peaceful means to resolve conflict. We have to come to the conclusion that no war is necessary, and all wars are preventable, and that dropping white phosphorus on a bunch of people and watching the flesh melt off their bones cannot be seen as progress or victory. It can only be seen as an obscenity against humanity, and it can never be repeated again by young people. And so, it is going to take young people embracing science and progress and innovation, seeing peace as the prize and the future, a peaceful future, as the ultimate goal. And it's going to take these young people thinking of more than their own comfort, their own checkbook, their own suburban box, and their own level of comfort to look at the bigger picture and make it better for the entire world. And so I predict that is going to be you. Where years from now at Sonoma College, they're going to teach courses on you, on how you changed the entire world, how you snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. You're going to be seen as the ones who were visionary, who went forward and made the world a safer and more wonderful place. And if it sounds like I'm putting a lot of burden and obligation and weight on your young shoulders, I absolutely am. You're right about that. But the only reason I'm doing that is because I know that you're good for this great journey and this great weight on your young shoulders. Today is a great day. Today is the day you start the future. Your hands are about to be placed on the wheel of the big bus. It is now officially your world. I'm just growing middle-aged in it, and I've seen the future. It's very, very bright. It's you. Congratulations. Now go get them. And that's, in essence, what I told them. I think that's what a young person should hear on their graduation day. Thanks. You got the Cliff Notes. I gave them the turgid 2.5-page version, so it took about 3 more minutes. But that's what I think a young person should hear, that they got the smarts, they got the youth, they got, they got the gear, that they got to do more than just look out for themselves. They got to look out for everything else too. And I think that is the job of America's young people and the youth of the entire world. And so I noticed that no one hurled a pint mug at my head. The students were applauding. They seemed to dig. They're like, whoa! Even the parents were like, Well, damn, that was better than mine, because the graduation, my guy sucked. That was, yeah. And I turned around greatly relieved that I pushed the stone up the hill and it didn't roll back and crush me. And the funny visual was all the rows of teachers and professors with the looks on their face like, no, you did not just connect all those dots. Meanwhile, they're all applauding wildly. So the face is incongruous to the hands. Because the hands are like, that was great. The face like, no, high school boy with tattoos. No. It was hilarious. Like, stop it. And they're like, no, I think we're going to clap a little more. That was pretty cool. You have to, no, I will not admit it. It was funny. And so I'm walking back to my seat, and the university president is walking by me and on his way to the podium to make another announcement. And he says, I've been to about 20 of these, and that's one of the best ones I've ever heard. What the f... I mean, he's a total head scratcher for him. And he gets up to the podium like, I didn't see that. Anyway, and he goes on with it. And so that's when the best part of the day started. And the best part of the day is watching people graduate. And I've got this amazing vantage point. I'm up on the stage, I'm watching from up high, and down on the lawn, young people line up, and someone's name is called out, the parents jump up and applaud wildly, and the young person walks up to the university president, shakes his hand, receives the diploma, they stop for the photo op, and then the young person goes back to his or her seat. And I turned into a one-man clapping machine. I clapped like 110 minutes without like, ow. Because what I didn't want to have happen is any student look up and see me not clapping. Like, yay, you, not so much. Next guy, yay, nice one. Because I was happy for all of them, because I never went to college. And so after about an hour, you're like, okay, can you run? Because this really hurts. But I felt compelled to do it. And so many of you have been dragged through these unendurable talking experiences before. And many of you have come to the conclusion that a lot of my ideas are slathered in patchouli oil, kicking a hacky sack, looking for a tree to hug, hoping that Jerry Garcia will magically rematerialize and take the Grateful Dead for another lap around the flat 50. And a lot of my ideas are perhaps hopelessly naive and utopian, and that may be true, but I cling to them because I think, they hold water now and then. And one of my hippy-dippy-doo-dah ideas, one of the many, is I love the idea of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of American young people getting a college education and being unleashed into my America. Because as it is now, America's number 40-something in literacy in the world, like 46th or something, which should be America's great shame. It should be the subliterate albatross swinging from America's collective neck. But it seems to be okay with a lot of Americans. Like, I don't know anything. You just confess to that in broad daylight? Get to a library, stat. And so I love the idea of a bunch of people coming out of a college who are like, wow, I know things, because I think smart people fairly often make really good decisions. And if we could reprioritize some of our expenditures with our taxpayer dollars and not necessarily need to blow up the world 80 times over and hang out in countries with no real definitive purpose or idea of victory, and take all that money and force young people into universities and places of higher knowledge, and all the parents and grandparents and wise apples like me would be seen as fascist dictators as we shoved people into classrooms and welded them in. And they'd run up to the bars of this cage/classroom like, hey, you just welded me in, you fascist dictator. Fascist dictator. I like the way that sounds. Henry Rollins, fascist dictator. Nice. I hate you! I know you do. I know. But by the time we pop the welds on this cage, you'll be able to hate me in 5 different languages. Yeah. You'll be able to hate me in iambic pentameter. You can't even spell that yet. When do I get out of here? When you've read all the books behind you. Yeah, there's a lot of them. You better get cracking. Because I need a smart America. And another one of my hippy-dippy-doo-dah ideas is, wouldn't it be great if every 5th person was a doctor? Because eventually, even a doctor has to admit that he or she needs a doctor. And wouldn't it be amazing to be at a restaurant with half a lobster tail wedged in your windpipe? That wouldn't be the wonderful part. The wonderful part would be, instead of having 5 people running around your table, tapping their iPhones, hoping that the iStore has an tap for that as you turn blue. Like, I don't know, put your iPhone on his head, that'll cure him. Nope, he's still dying. Instead of that, wouldn't it be great to have 5 doctors around your table having a momentary argument as to who gets to Heimlich you? Well, you know, I'm the best Heimlicher in town. I'm the best Heimlicher in the county. I'm the best Heimlicher in the state. Oh, that's right, you are. Excuse me, amateurs. I won the 2008 gold medal in the last Olympics for Heimliching. All right, you do it. School's in, amateurs. Isn't it a great arc and trajectory that I get with a food item? That's why I'm number 1. Can I get it? And that is, in America, A, I'd love to live in, B, I think is completely possible in a few generations. We could have it if we all got on that big-ass same page. Anyway, or maybe not, I don't know, but I like to think that it's possible. And so for me, it was a great day of applauding the great efforts of all these young people, and so it was a really good time. And by the end of the day, it was all over. I did the speech twice. The teachers actually were very kind to me eventually, and I left. And I went back down to Southern California to resume my day job of white power. So I'm doing my whole white power thing, and one day I'm not working. I'm at my office working, and I get a phone call from a model that I know. And as you could probably expect, yes, I know models. I'm famous. I'm internationally recognized. That is true. I've been famous for over half my life. So obviously models would flock to me. Not even flock to me. They would be hurled out of cannons, shot at me. Whenever I go to a film, there's usually a red carpet under my feet. I stick an arm out, and 4 to 5 80-pound argumentative women who survive on ambition and tobacco jump over my arm, and I gotta go like, every hotel room I go into, like accessories, there they are in the bed, in the hot tub, on the couch. Take me. That's usually how it is. On the private jets that I fly around the world in, there's usually, it's all first class for me. Believe me, there they are. They're usually sometimes in my Subaru, they're slumming it in the back, waiting to rip their clothes off and attack me. This is just kind of how I live. And perhaps one of the many things that distinguishes me from, well, people like yourselves. And no, I'm sorry, because it sounds initially like I'm, very insulting and patronizing, like I'm being disingenuous, and I'm just being honest. And don't hate me for being straight with you, okay? And yes, of course I'm kidding you. I know a model. He called me. Well, RuPaul is the one model that I know. And so, I've seen him on a catwalk. That means he's a model. And I met him in the Pleistocene era. We both had the same practice place in New York. And one day I'm like, wait a minute, you look familiar. I'm RuPaul, baby. I'm like, you are. And he's a really funny guy. And RuPaul is this wildly popular television show in America called RuPaul's Drag Race. And where drag queens compete to be number 1. And at the end of every episode, which is a concept per episode, a lady boy, as they're sometimes called on the show, is eliminated and goes home to a dysfunctional family in the Midwest. And every show has a different idea. Like this week, the drag queens go to the wild, wild west, and men in high heels and hot pants try and lasso cattle. Or the lady boys go to the deep blue yonder, and men in miniskirts jump out of airplanes like, girlfriend! And so they need judges. And so RuPaul calls me up to see if I want to be a judge. Hey, baby, it's RuPaul. I said, RuPaul, what can I do for you? Baby, I have a TV show called RuPaul's Drag Race. You just have to be a judge, baby. You just have to. And I said, so basically, you want me to hang out in a building full of men who tape their anatomy between their legs to such a degree that there's no discernible lump when they wear a pair of tight hot pants. Let me give that no thought whatsoever. I'm in. I think life is short, and one should, check out these things. And I don't know how bright lights big city St. Louis is. I suspect it's fairly bright light in big city, to the degree where you might have men hanging out in women's clothing on street corners in certain parts of town. I live in Hollywood, California. They're dotted all over corners of eastern parts of Santa Monica Boulevard and Hollywood Boulevard. And on one of the many broiling afternoons in the summer of Southern California, you can be driving west on Santa Monica Boulevard or Hollywood Boulevard, and at the red light, your choice of viewing is either the Prius ahead of you or the man standing on the corner, blonde wig askew, makeup melting off his face as chin stubble bursts out as he vigorously readjusts the anatomy that has fallen out of his lady's lingerie under his very short miniskirt for all to see. And Izzy's getting it together, and it's a visual that no amount of therapy will ever cleanse from your mind. And if you're like, ah! But you can't stop looking, and it remains in your wow, that's intense. It's like a Twisted Sister video come to life, enhanced by steroids and PCP. It's really something. And so I'm looking, and the guy's getting it together. And now that I've had a chance to inspect the wares, you know, we live in a capitalist, consumer-driven society. We buy things. That's what energizes the middle class, and certainly male street prostitutes in miniskirts. And so the guy sees me looking, so he comes right up to the car, thinking I want to enact a business transaction. Like, roll down your window. Not a chance. Thank you, though. Oh, green light, gotta go. And, you know, don't ever floor a Subaru, because the Subaru just gets argumentative. All the gerbils get off the wheel and go, no, Mr. Macho Man. And so you gently depress the gas pedal, and away you go. And so I said yes to RuPaul. And so the concept of the week that I was going to be a judge was rock attitude, where the drag queens are going to sing to a live rock band and to pre-taped music and show me how much rock they possess. And so days later, I go into the building, there's RuPaul, who's resplendent in his huge wig and gown and high heels. I have to hop up on a chair to shake his hand. And I sit down with RuPaul and all the other judges, and all of a sudden these men dressed as women come out and start doing their rock thing. And in rock, there's not a great deal of subtlety involved. And when you're trying to be number one, you don't start your first routine, oh, well, I'll be a little coquettish in the first routine. These are men at the end of the day with wigs on their head who come out to rock the house. And since none of them want to go home, they all want to make a very direct and meaningful connection with the new guest judge. That would be me. So these men come out and do this heavily sexualized thing, like in my lap. They're like right down the barrel. They're looking like, I'm like, really now? Wow, that's a lot of information. And it took me a few minutes to stabilize. Meanwhile, I'm a judge, and I have no idea what that requires. And so if you watch the show, which is now on rerun, I think on the Logo channel, you'll see all the judges having a wonderful time except for me. I'm in misery, because I take all of this stuff way too seriously. Because like I said, when I sign on the dotted line, you get the whole thing. Today, I stand in judgment. I have to send a ladyboy home. I don't want to send the wrong one home. So if you see me, they keep whipping the camera to me, and while the rest of the people are having fun, I'm there with a notepad like... I'm really wrestling this thing. I'm trying to be a good judge. And these men are like, really laying it on me. So there I am writing like the most stupid things. The pirouette was circular. The wig was on the head. I give it a 5. I have no idea what I just wrote or what I did. And so by Ladyboy 3 or 4, this one man dressed as a woman comes out, and her idea is that she's the punk rock bad girl of the troupe. And she comes out in combat boots and torn stockings with hot pants on and a torn shirt and spiky hair and black eye makeup. And she's very, very forceful at the beginning of the routine. She comes like, and I'm like, damn, that was hot. What am I doing? That's a guy. And shouldn't I be making notes? The provocative gesture at the beginning of the routine was, well, provocative. I give that a 9. Make that a 14. Make that a 27. And I kept looking at this guy. And the guy's like, I'm like, Henry, stop it. And if I keep thinking this way, am I like 10% gay, 15% gay, 33% gay? What's happening? And I realized very quickly that I'm just a simple man, just like any port in a storm. That's how men are. I'm not a homosexual. Yet I'm not a homophobe, and I don't fear or hate the gay. Some of you are gay, as if you could help that. Some of you are perhaps heterosexual. congratulations, you're on the big team. You're number one. You're at least 90% of the species and at least 85% of the American military. No matter what anyone else tells you to the contrary. And we'll get that together one day. Maybe not. And perhaps some of you are bisexual, which gives you a bit of an edge, right? You can run through any party or soiree with your eyes shut tight and your mouth open and your arms wide and your tongue sticking out, just going, and just go home with the first thing that goes, oh. And it's easily more complex than that, but it's kind of fun to poke at it in that way. Anyway, these men are doing their thing, and I'm like, that's hot. That's a man. I'm not into that, but still. And so that's how men are, and that's how I am, because I ain't nothing but a man. And on that afternoon, I saw with a great bit of clarity into why women are so frustrated with men. And I can't pretend to know the interior of the feminine psyche, but as I get older, I'm understanding more and more as I have become a better listener. Anyway, so I don't think that women necessarily want men to evolve and join them in the new century, because ladies, look around you, you're surrounded by us. I think maybe what women want is for men to emerge from the primordial ooze and walk on dry land for the first time, and get a system software upgrade. Like maybe get off of Tadpole 1.0 and somehow admit the awful truth that they are not torn from the pages of a Hemingway short story, that they are dynamic creatures with a full emotional range, with lots of feelings, and not these grunting creatures who need fire, beef products, bullets, and a warm place to put it now and then, because tomorrow there will be blood. And many men would like to think that's what they are. They can look at a woman, any woman, ooh, ooh, and the woman will be somehow compelled, like, wow, you're an alpha male, you just grunted at me, take me, you barbarian. And if only things were that simple, if only the recipient of the did not have an intellect as well. And that's where the whole thing breaks down, because some men would love for women to go like, okay, I have no mind, just do your thing, ooh. But unfortunately, women have too much mind for too many men's liking. They're complex, I can't handle it. Actually, you can, if you can get off the idea that you're not complex. If you can realize that Homo sapiens are a big pain in the ass because they are at the top of the food chain, then you can get along a little easier. And here's an awful secret from the guy's handbook. If you heterosexual women have ever been in this position where you're pinioned under the man and the thing comes to an end, usually when he finishes. So it's like, and you're like, hey, are you kidding me? Frustrated! I understand, and I'm here to help. Anyway, quite often the man will look down at you and say, are you okay? And what he is doing is fishing. I'm sure you knew that. And you say something, yeah, I'm fine. You know, I was reading a book. Did you just say something? Oh, I'm awake now, huh? You know, you'll say something like that. And that's never what the man wants to hear. What he wants to hear is that you're in great discomfort, that his interested member did ruinous, irreparable harm to your delicate lady interior. He wants you to say, no, I'm not okay. That was like the taking of Pelham 123. It was like the Mongol horde invading Afghanistan. No, I'll never be the same again. Really now, really. Ooh, more beef jerky and bullets. And so how will we ever evolve? I don't know, one drop at a time. I have no idea. But I'm no different. I'm a coelacanth. I'm a trilobite. You know, I'm as dumbass as any man who ever went down the highway of life. Because you can show me anything in a short skirt, man or woman, and I'll look at it for a very long time. And you can take a bunch of straight men and put them on a street corner and have the man dressed as a woman go by doing the Dick Van Dyke drunk walk on heels, which they always do, like, easy. Whoa. And men dressed as women selling their bodies off and trying, like, I'm a woman, check me out, yeah, you want that? And it looks fairly insane. And so a bunch of men see a man kind of jittering down the street like, wow, that's an intense chick. Dude, that's a guy. You're right, that is a guy. Damn, that's intense. No shit. Hey, would it be gay to say that, you know, that guy has good legs? No, because I thought the same thing. So I'm not gay. I know you're not gay. High five for heterosexual. heterosexual, straight to the end, right on, right on. So it's not gay to say that, he's got good legs. I mean, like, whoops, he came out of the chute the wrong way, he ended up with like good legs. Right, definitely, it probably works out. Right, high five for the gym every day, that's right. Okay, all right, well, would it be gay to say that guy's got a good ass? No, because I thought he had a good ass, and I'm definitely not gay, and you're not gay. Obviously he works for those glutes, working for the glutes. Right on. Okay, would it be gay to say that I want to hit that? That would be very gay, unless you're talking about desert island scenario. Desert island, definitely desert island. Okay. So how many days on a desert island alone with that guy before you'd hit that? Oh man, at least 3. 3? Yeah, 3. I'm thinking like 200. Did I say? No, 300, 500. Yeah. That's how men are. And you can put men anywhere. We'll find sex anywhere. That is where we are resourceful. We'll find a fissure in a tree. And then you'll see some guy in the deep woods with his arms around a tree. Oh, no. What are you doing? What? Look at that. What does that look like to you? You know what? I don't want to look at that because I'm going to be erasing that memory from my mind for the rest of my life. You are stooping a tree. Well, tree's not running away. Must be into it. Look at the base of the tree. It's over 18 years of age. Yeah. I'm an alpha male. You're an alpha idiot is what you are. And that's how we men are. We're all alpha idiots. And that's women's dilemma. Wishing men could lose the gills and primordial tail. Guess what, ladies? Never. And so it was interesting watching my psyche flip and flop and me having to manually restrain my psyche lest I get too into a guy in hot pants. I'm like, Henry, stop it. Okay, it stopped. But damn, Henry! And so I have RuPaul, we have lunch. And so RuPaul and I are eating in this well-lit room, kept well away from the contestants. It's me and the judges. And I'm sitting across from RuPaul. And eating lunch with RuPaul is in itself completely surreal. Because you're sitting across from this athletically built 6'5" man of African-American descent with this preposterous wig taped to his head, with makeup on his face as he shoves food into his mouth. You're like, this is completely strange. And so RuPaul wants to know how I'm dealing with the show. How's the show going for you, baby? I said, RuPaul, it is one of the most strangest exercises my mere psyche has ever tried to deal with, because I have to manually restrain myself from saying, damn, I sure could get some of that. It is so completely weird, because they're guys, but they look like chicks, and I have to manually keep on like moving. It's pretty hard to deal with, RuPaul. He thought it was hilarious. He loved my agony. Oh, child, I think someone has opened a door. I said, no, we have not opened a door. Oh, girlfriend, I think I just called you girlfriend. Girlfriend, I think someone is sexually ambiguous at this time. I said, there's no ambiguity here, sir. I think I better come over this weekend with some phone numbers and some technique. I was like, stop it. And he's like, he thought it was hilarious. And so we emerged from lunch. We finished the day of work, and they kicked me out of the building, and I go back into my utilitarian hovel after getting out of my Subaru, and I feel the need to relieve tension. Not necessarily inspired by the events of that day, but nonetheless I feel this need. I've been feeling the need to relieve tension since my 13th year. And it was in year 13 where I felt this new accoutrement, this rapidly developing tension and pressure building in my midsection that I realized would have to be addressed. Some Darwinian Nietzschean birdie got in my ear and said, you better get some technique, son, because you're going to need it. And I remember sitting in my bedroom looking at my young hand going, the opposable thumb. Now I see why I've got this. And so the learning curve was incredibly steep, but I was a very willing student. And so day one of relieving this damned tension. Never enjoying it, mind you. Just a utilitarian task to get through the day, all 5 times a day. Damn, do I miss those times. Anyway, from day one, I started as kind of a novice with a lot of enthusiasm. By day 2, I was an intermediate, showing great signs of promise. By day 3, I was kind of the course pro. And by day 4, kind of an old hand, if you will. And so, as a young man with many minimum wage jobs, I had to find opportunities to relieve tension while at the workplace. So I would work those miserable jobs where you do like 70 hours a week for a pauper's wage. And so I realized that the objective is not to slow down the rate of commerce, because that we are trying to make the money come in. So I had to be able to multitask, and never once did I preclude any of my bosses from any dollar coming into the places I worked, because I could multitask. May I help you, sir? It was never a problem, because I got on the stick, as it were. And as a young man in the world of music, I was afforded a bit of travel, and I went all over the world rocking out and relieving tension wherever I went. And as an older guy who travels fairly far and wide for curiosity's sake, I can safely say that I've left enough DNA evidence in hotel sinks and showers pretty much on every continent of the world, where if you were to go through hotels from Tokyo to Taipei, from Paris to Cairo, you would perhaps find DNA evidence, if scraping away like, we knew he was here, but you never once will you find any DNA evidence of me in Pico Rivera. I want to make that clear. Anyway, and so one evening I get back from RuPaul's Drag Race feeling the need to relieve this damned tension, and so there I am standing in front of my bathroom sink like I have on many nights of my life, about to relieve this tension. And for many of you men, you have that deja vu moment that all of us men are sharing now, where you stand in front of the sink with your destiny in your hand, looking back at this reflection as kind of this Darwinian Nietzschean court of law, where a man assesses his destiny or the lack thereof. And you're like, oh no, what will it be? And a lot of you older men have had the misfortune of keeping your eyes open during the act, turning that corner in your life not knowing you did, when your face no longer belongs to yourself. And as a young man, when you're relieving tension, you can keep your eyes open, and your face will have this look of charismatic nonchalance, a la Paul Newman in Cool Hand Luke. But when you get to a certain age, the face just looks like desperate, and confused. And if you young men want to not have to endure this awful look on your face as an adult, and experience potential performance failure, I would keep the eyes closed after the year of 40 of your life, as part of middle age and the indignities that you will suffer. If you want to see what this face looks like without it having to be your own, I direct you to a wonderful film about a man trying to reconnect with his son, a true gift to the canon of American cinema. It's a film called Over the Top, and it stars one of America's greatest actors, a man named Sylvester Stallone. And this film, it disguises itself as an adventure action film about arm wrestling, when it is in fact a film about a young man trying to reconnect with his father, and a father trying to reconnect with his son. And in this film, Sylvester Stallone is a lonesome truck driver driving the highways of America, wishing he could reconnect with his estranged son. Meanwhile, he keeps himself busy by arm wrestling a pulley system for the big arm wrestling match at the end of the film. And at the end of the film, he's there with a whole bunch of Americans surrounding him. His son is there, and he's about to arm wrestle a man who's about 550 pounds of body weight, all of it muscle. His biceps are the diameter of your waist, and he eats young elephants for breakfast. This guy is terrifying. And Sylvester Stallone's small, tanned, manicured hand disappears into this huge, white, hairy fist. And the guy looks at him and goes like, I'm gonna tear your arm off and eat it. How'd you like them apples? And Sylvester Stallone says something fearless and charismatic like, it's gonna be a long day at the office, or something like that. And you know inherently that Stallone is going to win because he is good of heart, and you've seen him run through Russian snows with a log across his back, so you know he's gonna win this one. And the two men, they lock up, and they start arm wrestling back and forth. And then Sylvester Stallone goes over the top, hence the title of the film, and pins this man and regains the love of his estranged son. And by going over the top, to do that requires such a great effort that this look overcomes Sylvester Stallone's face, where his lower lip goes all the way down his neck and actually touches his collarbone. That is the the expression that you men will see on your face if you stupidly have your eyes open at that moment. And if I ever had the chance to meet Sylvester Stallone, I would have only one question for him. Mr. Stallone, your great American film, Over the Top, in the takedown scene, sir, what was your motivation? And like, well, one day I was in front of my dad, I'm like, I knew it! I knew it! You need not say any more, I've been there. Anyway, so there I am, relieving this damned tension. And there was a time when I was younger, when I would release the tension, and the DNA sample that used to reside in my testicles either seemed to hate me and wanted to leave me as soon as possible, or it wanted to have like one last hurrah and wanted to propel itself through the air to dash its little tadpole brains against the opposite wall. And it did not matter how far across the room that wall existed. These are like splatter in this amazing diameter. And I was a younger man, and now the DNA sample kind of trundles up the pipe. All right, I'll do it. Stop stepping on my heels. All right, here we go. Are you guys ready for this? It's pathetic, as your body deteriorates and hurtles towards the grave. You'll see. Anyway, so there I am, with my eyes tightly shut, with experience being my great teacher, and I'm working away, not having any fun, mind you, just a damn utilitarian task, and I'm entertaining visual imagery that helps me get through this awful experience. And J28 was what I was using that night, and I keep them all alphabetically stored in my virtual jukebox. And so in J28, the Fraulein's whip bites very deeply into the ass flesh. It's a short film about discipline, and so I'm Fraulein. And I reckon if you leave the kids and dogs out of it, the rest is just fine. And so I'm, doing my thing, and I see that the film is about to come to an end, it's going to coincide with the release of the tension. And I see that there's about 3 frames of imagery left to go, which means I'm a nanosecond away from unleashing. No, not really unleashing. I'm kind of letting the old animals kind of come tepidly out of their cage. Anyway, I see that the thing's about to come to an end, and the last frame of imagery flies by my face at Japanese bullet train speed. At the same time, the DNA is, kind of let loose or told it can go now. And at that moment, right, the last possible nanosecond of visual imagery as the DNA is becoming unleashed, is when the punk rock bad girl from RuPaul's Drag Race lands solidly in the last frame, like, how do you like me now? Like, no! But it was too late. It was too late. It was a done deal. The DNA evidence was unleashed into the sink and onto my hand. It was a damn crime scene, and a damn shame that J28 now, for all time, has a new cast member. And that at the end of the day, ultimately, a man in hot pants brought me to fruition. And I'm like, no, man, really? What a drag. And so I am left to wander the utilitarian hallways of my hovel, wishing I could quit him. And obviously, have to do some work on that. And so I went to bed that night with a lot on my mind. Like, RuPaul, why? Interesting, being a man with no brain. And so I went back to work the next day, back to another day of white power. And that's basically how I got through April, May, June, July, August, and September of last year, hanging out in TV land, being a neo-Nazi. And so the show came to an end, my employee came to an end, and my next bit of work was this fantastic tour. But it's not for several weeks until tour starts. And I see basically relative inactivity waiting for me, which for some people might be fun. For me, it is agony. I do not want nothing to do. I want too much to do. I want debt and obligation. I want to wake up every day with too much on my plate. I want to be overworked, underappreciated, underfed, underslept, and behind schedule at all times, leaning into the wind, mad at it. That's when I get the best out of myself. And there's a book I read many years ago with some of the writings of a guy named Seneca. And I'm not the brightest bulb in the chandelier, but some of what Seneca said stuck to me. He's kind of an interesting, he's kind of like a Borscht Belt comedian philosopher. Very funny, very dry, very good. And one of the things he said, and I'm not going to articulate it very well, but one of the things he said that on your deathbed, you should be happy that you're about to die. Having kicked the ass off of life so completely, there's nothing left on your to-do list but die. So instead of being fearful, like I'm going to die, I'm so scared, you're like, yay, I get to die, because life is so boring. I whooped that ass so completely, I have no more questions, I have nowhere else I want to go, nothing else I want to do, because like I did it all. I rang the bell, I got the brass ring, and so death will be the one thing I haven't done yet. So let's see what death is like. I think death will be interesting. It'll be this thing that, and that'll be it. And that's how I want to go out. Instead of like, oh no, I should have done the thing. I want to do the thing while I still have some sap in my bones. And one of my hippy-dippy-doo-dah ideas is, the more I travel, the better I get. And the more Americans travel, the better they get. And if only all of us could have a passport and the means to get out into the world and become more cultured, I think the result would be America would become less warlike and more cultivated, having dipped into a bunch of cultures. Because many of you, hopefully, have traveled and you found out that the rest of the world, the parts you've been to, are fairly friendly, and you can walk down streets you can't pronounce the name of and dig food you don't know the ingredients of and check out music you can't snap your fingers to and have a fantastic time. And when you come back from that country, you kind of have this great story of you in that country. And when someone says, that country sucks, they're all rude, you go like, have you ever been there? Well, no, but the guy on the news says, you know what, I've been there and they were cool. How about next time we have a disagreement with them, let's not bomb them, let's sit down and negotiate, because they were pretty cool and I don't want to kill them. And you know, what's so bad about that idea? They're like, well, you have to be careful. In the Middle East, they all live in caves and they scratch designs in the sand and they hate your freedom. I've been all over the Middle East, and somehow I'm still here with you. And I'm not brave, nor am I a tough guy, nor am I looking for a fight with anyone, but I am insatiably curious, and the world is my oyster, and I wish my name was Johnny Quest, because I want to go out and see it all. I want to swing from every vine. And so if you give me time with no activity, I will go bounce all over the world like a one-man National Geographic Super Bowl. And so I see, several weeks of relative inactivity. So I said, okay, concept. I will book the next 3 months of my life in the next minute and a half. And I open up a high-resolution GIF file I have of the map of the world. And I go, okay, ready, set, book a trip. And I go, I'll go there, there. What's that? There. How do you pronounce that? There. Is that where that is? There. Oh, they said if you go there, they cut your head off. There. And I booked this trip that's like ding, 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 ding. And I write all these countries in that order into an email to my long-suffering travel agent, Nancy. Dear Nancy, book this, why don't you? Like some kind of crazy joke. And I do this at 3:30 in the morning when I'm at my best. And the next day I go staggering into the office, and I go to the internets, and dear Nancy has written me back a letter. She says, Dear Henry, you psycho, I can book this, but you're not going to survive it. Your arms will burn off from the friction. You might want to get 8 hours of sleep, or at least 45 minutes of sleep, and consider this again. I said, no, I don't want to consider it, because as it is now, I've forgotten at least 30% of the countries I want you to send me to, which will make the itinerary really interesting. Like, where am I going tomorrow? That's right, wear it, sonny. And so I said, just book it before I come to my senses. And so I go up to the demon's office with my passport, and I hurl the passport through the air. The demon catches it with its tail. And the demon gets very happy when it sees my passport in its tail, because it knows that that means I'm going to leave. Because the demon's job is to put visas into my passport by sending my passport on a FedEx tour of consulates and embassies in America. And so the demon goes, how long will you be gone? I said, entire fiscal quarters. Satan! The little hooves stomp on the ground and the flame comes out and the wings. Oh, it's amazing. The pageantry. It's breathtaking. Anyway, the demon sends the passport on the tour of embassies, and dear Nancy books the coordinates. And several days after I wrap out of the Sons of Anarchy, I leave America with 2 backpacks. One full of clean clothes and protein bars, and the other one full of cameras, lenses, notebooks, and my laptop. And I went from America to Jordan, to Saudi Arabia, Brunei, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bangladesh, India, Nepal, China, Senegal, and Mali. And from Mali, from the deep burning sands of the Sahara Desert near Timbuktu, I left and arrived in Dublin and started this tour January 12th or 14th of this year. So since, like I said, 3 hours ago, and you can still feel your ass cheeks, since last October, I've been everywhere else, with the exception of 20 days. And so I only got off the road basically to reconfigure my backpack and leave again for a different climate. And so that's what I've been doing. And a lot of the destinations I just detailed for you were actually mission specific. I went to Saudi Arabia because I know a diplomat there. I met him in Cairo. Him and his wife are in the American Foreign Service. And I met them in Cairo about 180 years ago. We remained pals. And he invited me to come out and visit him and his wife in Riyadh and Dhahran. So I spent a week there and hung out with people who I can safely say have way too much money for their own good. And there is such a thing as having too much money. And I never had that conclusion come to me until I was in a palace in Riyadh. And I met a man whose father is one of the 10 richest men in the world. The guy's like a billionaire. And he said, I like you, come to my father's palace tonight. None of you have ever said to me, come to my father's palace tonight. That was a first. And so when in Rome, go to the palace. And so I went to this palace, and it was this massive bit of property with a bunch of mansions kind of arbitrarily dropped everywhere. And I took a mansion tour with my gracious host. I went mansion hopping, if you can believe it. And every single mansion is as big as the Midwest. Freezing cold. Every flat screen TV is on. There's food in every room, and obsequious help that stares at the ground and trembles waiting for the next command. Yet there's nobody else living in it, in these huge places. So I said to my host, who lives in these places? He said, well, the last 3 that you've been in are my father's 3 wives. I go, but where's the wife? Traveling. But the TVs are on. Well, we thought you might like to watch TV. But there's help in every room. Thought you might need something. But there's food on every flat surface of every floor in every room of every mansion. There's enough food to feed a rugby team per room, per floor, per mansion for the last 2.5 hours. Who's going to eat all that food after I leave? I don't know. That's not my department. And that's when I knew that this guy has too much money. Because obviously a lot of that food just goes away while people die all over the world. And all of you know that a lot of the world is hungry every day. We in the West, we're big fat bastards. But in a lot of other parts of the world, man, they'd be happy to eat your vomit out of a bowl or off the street where they'd lick it, and they'd be very happy for that. And that's one of the reasons I went to a lot of the countries I went to. I went to India and Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, places like that, to see this kind of thing up close and personal. This is where I get my real information. Like you, I love reading. And books are great, but books are basically the introduction to information. I'd rather get my information for myself by going through what Mark Twain characterized as the territory. And there's a very sobering thing to stand next to a pile of garbage that smells very, very, very badly in the steaming afternoon in Bangladesh and watch kids dive into the garbage and pull out chunks of something and put it into their mouths, and it looks like they're eating free sushi and tiramisu. They're like, yay, food! You're like, I'm getting dizzy from the stench. And that's how a lot of people live all over the world. And I try and see this stuff for myself. I ask questions. What's up with the government? What's up with the food and healthcare in this country? Why? And like I said, keep asking questions, keep getting answers. Get the answer, ask a new question, off you go. And so I'm trying to answer and ask questions, take photos, meet people, and see the world as best I can. See the effects of globalization, see the effects of global climate change, see what a war looks like decades later. That's why I go to Cambodia, that's why I go to Laos, that's why I go to Vietnam, to see these things and to learn a thing or two. And so I go bouncing all over the world. I was in India for the 25th anniversary of the Bhopal disaster. You remember about 25 years and some months ago in Bhopal, a city in central India, the Union Carbide India Limited plant had a tank of methyl isocyanate, which is a component part of this bug spray they were making called 7. It exploded because it met with water. Tons of methyl isocyanate turns into gas. It goes all over Bhopal, kills about 8,000 to 10,000 people fairly immediately, to where within 3 days after the disaster, every city street is lined with dead bodies. Ox, cow, human. And so, as you know, about 2 weeks ago, many people from Union Carbide America have been pulled up on charges and are facing extradition to go back to India to go do 24 months in prison. One of those people would be Warren Anderson, who was the CEO of Union Carbide at the time. He's like 9,800 years old. He's never going to do a day in jail. His lawyers will appeal. The thing will go sideways. He'll die, and nothing will ever happen in Bhopal. But I wanted to be there for the first 25 years of this. And the 25-year memorial of this thing happens in a public park. And about 2 200 people show up in a city of thousands. And there's a small stage with a PA and a microphone. And it's like open mic afternoon. If you want to get up there and talk about how Union Carbide basically killed your entire family, have at it. And I'm sitting there in the roasting Indian sun, watching these beautiful, beautiful ancient women get on stage, and they're very dignified. They get the microphone, and they start getting pretty heated. And the fists, start clenching and pumping the air. These women start stomping their sandal feet on the stage and start yelling and screaming and crying about how Union Carbide killed their family. And everyone in sitting down is like, yeah! And there's one white guy like, hey, what's happening? And they're looking at me, I'm like, it wasn't me, man! And it was an interesting time to be there. So I bounced out of there after 3 weeks living in India, and I found myself later on in Nepal, where the same drug dealer followed me around every single day in utter disbelief that I did not want to purchase crack, smack, acid, or big booty bitches from him. And he insisted he had high quality versions of all of them. And I fairly had to run away from him on day 3. I go, I don't want hash. He thought I was just being shy. My friend, I have hash and big bugs. I do not want to rent a human, okay? Anyway, I eventually found myself in China, and I wanted to go to China because I wanted to see, A, who I owe all this money to, apparently, B, where a Walmart starts. I kind of wanted to go to the mother pool of Walmart, to Walmart Ground Zero, where these awful things are made and then jettisoned over land, sea, and air to Walmarts all over America. Be careful, there's going to be one built in your backyard tomorrow. Anyway, I'm walking down the freezing streets of Beijing from my hotel to Tiananmen Square every day to behold the enormity of Tiananmen Square. And about every 3 or 4 minutes, a would-be tour guide would attach himself to me and give me the rap. And the rap must have been written for these guys, because the rap is exactly the same person after person. And I got kind of tired of it, and I wanted to have a bit of a comeback, because I've decided that in my life, with what I have left, now that I'm 50 basically, now I'm going gray and my body is shrinking with age, I've come to the conclusion that my new job, my only job for the rest of my life, is to make trouble, is to basically, in the Joe Strummer, Thomas Jefferson model, go as far and as wide as I can and go, what's up with that? What does that do? Basically be a big pain in the ass. And so these men would walk up to me, and since I'm polite to everyone except for detectives, it seems, tour guides are inclusive under me being polite. And so the man walks up and says, how are you? And I said, I'm fine. How are you? I'm very well. Thank you for asking. Where are you from? I said, I'm from America. Great. How long have you been in China? I said, I've been here for about 5 days. How do you like it? I said, I like it pretty much. It's a little cold, but past that, I think it's fantastic. The guy said, that's magnificent. I'm a tour guide, and tomorrow morning I want to take you to the Great Wall of China. And I said, that's cool. I'm a troublemaker in the Joe Strummer, Thomas Jefferson model, and I'd like you to get out of Tibet immediately. What can we work out? And I thought I was hilarious. This is me basically working the room. And basically it's me doing a stand-up op-ed, one person at a time. Knowing Get Out of Tibet is not going to be on the op-ed page of the Beijing Times anytime soon. I don't think they have an op-ed page. I don't think they want you opping or edding in that country. I think it's a great way to get your head caved in. And so if I have to stand there on the street with every would-be tour guide and urge them to get out of Tibet, knowing full well that it's not tour guides in Tibet or in China that are oppressing people of Tibet, it's Hu Jintao and his Orwellian thugs. But I thought it'd be funny, and I tried to get a laugh on the street out of would-be tour guides, and I got nothing. They hated me. They were terrified. I said, get out of Tibet. They're like, I don't understand. I go, but you do understand. Look, you're freaking out. Come on, smile. Get out of Tibet. Get out of Tibet. Come on, you can do it. And they're like, they would run from me. But like 3 minutes later, another guy would come up. How are you? I said, fine. You want to talk? Let's. I did this for 3 solid days. It's what kept me warm. And so finally my time in China is over. And so on a freezing, cloudless morning, I jump into a taxi in front of the hotel, and I say to the nice man, sir, take your chariot and me and you to the airport. And so we drive to the airport, and the nice man knows a bit of English. And so he's talking to me, and he says, do you like music? I said, sure. And so he looks in his front seat, he's got a bunch of CDRs, and he pulls out the mix that matches this face. He goes, aha, this is the one for him. And he shoves it into his player, and he turns the volume to the highest possible decibel level. It is the worst rock mix CDR I have ever heard in my life. At that time, as the music is killing me because the speakers are located behind my ears, at this time he decides that he needs to give me a driving tour of downtown Beijing. He's a very kind man, and so as I'm going into this coma from too much volume, he's yelling at me about points of interest, not bothering to turn the music down, and before he'd tell me anything, he would say, "Hello!" like he's about to tell me something to wake me out of my stupor. And so on this day, I find out that there's a different version of the Europe song Final Countdown, and I did not know that until I was incarcerated in the back of this taxi. There's a bonus beat remix version, which is even more awful than the original. And so my soundtrack going to the airport is, "It's the final countdown. Hello! This building is very old!" And this is why I have a passport that is chock full of so many visas. It was audio hell. It's also what I live for. This is the very stuff of life. And in my opinion, if you don't have 30 or 50 of those, "Hello!" kind of stories before you die, you've somehow blown it. And so we're driving along. He's giving me the tour. The tour is great. The music is misery. Finally, magically, the airport materializes. Never have I been so happy to see an airport in my life. He pulls down the volume about 10%, and he says, "Here's how much you owe me!" And I pay the man, and as I'm extracting my gear from the back of his taxi, that's when he lays on me the best one-liner of the entire tour. Because all these trips I go on, I judge them on a few different criteria. And one of them is, did I learn anything? Was I suitably awed by another culture, by getting out of my own Western mindset and value system to fully assess another culture? Did I accomplish that? That seems to be the hardest challenge that I always face whenever I travel abroad. One of the other criteria is, was there any humor? Did anyone have a great one-liner? Because, get out of Tibet didn't seem to work. And so, as I'm pulling my gear out of the back, is this taxi driver in Beijing who had the great one-liner. He looks at me and says, "Hello! Goodbye!" Which, come on, it's amazing. It's why you travel. And I thought, ooh, you're good. And I got back to America for a mere pit stop, 6 of the 20 days, and I repacked my backpack and jetted off again and found myself days later in Western Africa, in Dakar, Senegal, for New Year's, where the prevailing wisdom seems to be to give 9-year-old kids half a stick of dynamite with a fuse shoved in it and throw it behind me to see if you can make me jump into a tree with a stripe of urine going down my leg. Successful on all fronts. It was terrifying. My nerves are still jingling and jangling from that. And so I went from there to Mali, and I started in lower Mali in the south of the country in Bamako, and I went up to Mopti. And in Mopti, I jumped into a riverboat and went 3 days up the Niger River to Timbuktu and went into the Saharan Desert for the 10th annual Desert Music Festival. And like some absurdist joke, they put a festival in the middle of the Sahara Desert. And they're like merry pranksters said, "We know what we'll do. We'll put a full stage and lights and a PA in the middle of nowhere, where you expect Omar Sharif to come by on a camel and try and sell you a 3 DVD version of the new recut of Lawrence of Arabia. Past that, there's nothing but sand and death, and a stage and a PA and lights. And that's the Desert Music Festival. And thousands of people from all over the world come to dig this crazy music. And from 8 p.m. until 3 in the morning on 3 successive nights in the desert, which is now freezing cold, you can stand there with your teeth chattering as you watch men and women in robes and turbans slinging guitars rock out Tuareg rebel style. And you see bands like Terakeft and Kuo Dede and Tartit and Tinariwen. And I've been going to this thing for a couple of years now. And you survive the day, the sun, which wants to beat your brains in. The sun you hide from. You have to hide from it because it wants to kill you. And I would hide from it underneath my slab of camel skin, which was my shelter. And the sun beats camel stank into my gear. So my sleeping bag smells of camel armpit. It's so rank and so thick, and it stays as a great lasting power. So I gave myself 48 hours to extricate myself from the burning sands of the Sahara, to deposit myself on the raining streets of Dublin, Ireland, to start this tour. So I went from one vine right to another. And thankfully, it only took me a mere 36 hours to get from Timbuktu to Dublin, Ireland. Because as many of you know, African time is not always captured on a watch. And if you're at an airport in Africa and your flight is 3 hours late, it's not 3 hours late. You're just looking at your watch too much. The plane will eventually show up, not necessarily on time, but somewhere in time. And when the plane lands, you're like, aha, you were 2 hours and 48 minutes late. I am the king of time. And Africans are like, yeah, the plane showed up. And we're getting on it. We hope. And so my first night of this tour was in front of a relatively easy to deal with group of Dubliners. And Dubliners, if you get them on the right night of the week, are wonderful. If you get them Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, they are hell on earth because they are dipped deep in the mother pool of Guinness. And in Ireland, there's hot, cold, and Guinness. There's mother's milk in one breast, Guinness in the other, and by day 2, baby's only on this breast. And so Guinness is just part of the culture. And if you get a crowd on the weekend in Dublin and you're only armed with your mere psyche and a microphone, you're screwed. Because the entire night becomes call and response. You say something and then there's a wall of, and it's like paddling through pudding. It takes like 5.5 hours to express one idea because everyone's like, it's like the endless John Boehner press conference. Anyway, if you get them on a Monday or Tuesday, they're recovering from Guinness, and you go, hey, and they're like, so I had them right where I wanted them. Oh, it was so good. It was so enjoyable. It was like diving off a high diving board into a swimming pool full of puppies. Anyway, that's how this tour started, and that is what I do. I go as far and as wide as I can. I assess the information, and I try and go, what's up with that? And I bring it back and lay it humbly at your feet like a retriever dog laying a not-so-chewed-up pheasant in front of your Wellington boots. And that's it. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is something that many of you are going to love me for. I'm basically going to shut up pretty soon. And by shutting up, I'm going to liberate your ass. Your ass? You haven't thought about your ass since the last time I mentioned your very numb and painless ass cheeks. Okay, you have been on the longest JetBlue flight from hell. Now you're like galley slaves sitting there. And about an hour ago, you're going from cheek to cheek because of the pain. About 45 minutes ago, you gave up on your ass. Well, like, I don't even have an ass. I'm just near dead. Will he ever stop talking? Very soon. Pretty soon, I hope. Anyway, when I stop talking, all the blood that's been now pooled in the upper half of your body, being squeezed out of your ass cheeks by your mere body weight, is going to go, ooh, ooh, thank you, Henry. Thank you for shutting your mouth. And it's going to go back down into your legs, filling your ass cheeks back up with life-giving blood. 1 to 3 liters per ass cheek. And your ass cheeks are going to go from these kind of 2 numb, bloodless things to these 2 full of blood, tactile feels of pleasure. Like, I like my own, I'm getting off groping my own ass. It's not illegal to grope myself. I can be 15 and grope myself. It's not statutory. Oh, you naughty ass. Oh, I love discipline. What happened to me? Anyway, and so as soon as I shut up, you'll be able to go. And you'll stand up and the blood will come back to your ass cheeks. You'll go, oh, man, I missed my ass. And if you're out on a date, if you're with your honey, make sure to police that ass and make sure that ass, stimulate. We need more stimulation. And so you're probably wondering, as you walk into the lit lobby, going back to your car, going back to the babysitter or wherever you're going back to, you'll probably go, how is he able to talk nonstop, putting one word after another, building the most impossible brick wall of bullshit? How is he able to do that for damn near 3 hours and never once taking a sip of water? How the hell did he do that? It was not because I was not thirsty, I'll let you know. I walked out onto this stage thirsty, but didn't touch the water once, and I'll tell you why. It is one of my 2 great phobias of performing. The first phobia is that I will somehow fall asleep on stage mid-sentence, as if that's gonna happen. And the other fear is if I take the sip of water, upon standing back up, all of you will have found the exit and you'll leave. And I'll be like, oh, come on! And so it is my great fear that you would abandon me mid-sip. So I just go, no, I'll wait for the water after the show because I don't want any of them to leave. Because if any of you ever left me, I would have nothing going on. And that's it. You mean everything to me. Thanks for enduring me. I'll see you again sometime. Good night.